Welcome to the Prophecy Club. And what I'm about to say might not sound exactly right on a nationwide radio program, but I mean it sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And that is, I want to say to every one of you out there listening, and especially our supporters and especially our Fast Track team too, I want to say I love you. And the reason I say that is because I think this past weekend, listening to Brian Melvin, I think hearing about heaven, hearing about hell, I think it drew me closer to the Lord. I think it painted an even closer picture in my mind of what our life together in heaven is going to look like and what kind of life we need to be living here on earth in order to be there, and to be there with the best blessing, which I guess is kind of a roundabout way saying I really recommend that you get that hell offer. That's what we're calling it, the hell offer, at prophecyclub.com. But the point that I want to say is I want to say that I love you guys. Anyway, on to what we're talking about today. Here's the plan. I'm going to be playing a few broadcasts out of these 4 DVDs that I really think you need to get. First is How Illegal Immigration is Destroying America. True, sometimes older DVDs are not as relevant. However, these don't fall into that category. Matter of fact, they're probably more relevant today than they were when, for example, 3 of the 4 made back in 2005. First one is How Illegal Immigration is Destroying America. This is by Major James Linzey, retired U.S. Army officer and chaplain. And in 2005, we weren't that concerned with illegal immigration and how it was destroying America, but boy, we are today, and he hits it. Now, next thing is this How World Bankers Are Destroying America, and I have to say, from what I hear coming from Linzey and the elite, this is extremely relevant and very important that you get it, because he helps you understand, literally, these international bankers are setting us all up. We are all in a funnel, and that funnel is getting smaller and smaller, and it's all heading toward world government, mark of the beast, and the Antichrist. That's where it's really going. Third one is Secrets of the Illuminati by Dr. Stan Monteith. This is talking about things like Rhodes Scholar, Jesuit, Lucius Trust, Mason, Skull and Bones, Rosicrucians, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderbergers, expert on it for years. Then Planned Population Reduction. Can you believe that they are doing many things in our nation, especially around the world, to actually kill people? That's their goal. See if Satan can get them in the grave. Well, the sooner the better, especially if he can get them there before they accept Jesus. That's to his advantage. So he's talking about things like what's wrong with cell phones, diet drinks, soy products, mercury, preservatives, MTB, Splenda, and all sorts of things. All 4 DVDs, valued at $120, available today for a gift of just $40. It's the immigration gift offer at prophecyclub.com. Now let's go on over and listen to the audio of the DVD, How World Bankers Are Destroying America.
Those who do sit on a piece of paper which is supposed to pay so much interest. But there's not enough slack money in the economy for all private, wage-earning, hard-working Americans to buy up all these bonds every year. So what does Congress do? They march across the street to the Federal Reserve Corporation, and they say, Federal Reserve, we have extra bonds. Will you buy these bonds from us? And the Federal Reserve agrees to do so. But the Federal Reserve also stipulates the amount of interest that they will charge. Congress has to take the deal because there's nobody else on the face of the planet with this kind of money. The Federal Reserve is sitting on the largest concentration of money on the planet that's ever been accumulated. So it doesn't mind billing Congress over and over again. The Federal Reserve is doing this to every country on the planet. Congress takes the deal because it has to balance the budget. So the bonds go into the vaults of the Federal Reserve. The Bureau of Printing and Engraving then prints out the equivalent number of Federal Reserve notes because they bought the bonds. The Federal Reserve notes are not the property of the U.S. Treasury. They are the property of the Federal Reserve System. But Congress injects these notes into the economy by using them to pay the salaries for congressmen, senators, the president, janitors, GIs, military officers, anyone on their payroll, and now the money is put into the economy. Let's talk about globalization. That's where we're headed with all this. Let's talk about inflation. If the Federal Reserve puts money into the economy like this, If the money supply grows faster than the aggregate sum of goods and services exchanged in the economy, then we have inflation. Higher prices is not the cause of inflation. Higher prices is the effect of inflation. Inflation is defined to be a disproportionate increase in the money supply relative to the quantity of goods and services exchanged. That means there's more money out there. People are willing to pay higher prices to outbid other buyers, and therefore prices increase. How then do we prevent inflation if the government continues to put more money into the economy? We must do something that will bring money out of the economy, to pull the money out. This is where the IRS comes in. They are a collection agency, sometimes compared to a vacuum. The Federal Reserve pumps money into the economy and the IRS sucks it out. And the controllers are very skillfully shifting the rates of these two actions to set the waves of recession and inflation pouring through the economy. The aggregate level rises up and down, and the controllers sit back with all this money playing this big game at your and my expense. Let's talk about an international economy. Anthony asked Tremaine whether the Japanese and the Iraqis had their hands in the pot. Tremaine answered that we have an international economy. And a lot of those bonds are spread around the country and around the world. So the bondholders are not just the American middle class, not just the Federal Reserve Corporation, the Federal Reserve banks, but a lot of foreign countries as well. More and more ties are being formed with financial institutions around the world. Such ties lead to an opening for a world bank. Our new would-be world rulers, global banking, are trying to change our whole racial order, our whole social order, our whole political order, and our whole religious order. But they will not change the debt, money, economic systems with which they use to rule us. The book of Proverbs warns us that the borrower is a servant to the lender. Proverbs 22:7. American people are forced to borrow. Since the U.S. Congress has not issued continental or constitutional money since 1863, in order for the people to have money to carry on trade and commerce, they are forced to borrow the created credit of the monopoly bankers and pay them high rates of interest. That's one form of income and wealth for the bankers. The bankers have another method for drawing large sums of wealth. The bankers who control the money at the top are able to approve or disapprove of large loans to large and successful corporations. Refusal of a loan may bring about the reduction of a corporation's stock, the selling price of the stock. After the price is depressed, the banker's agents will buy large blocks of the company's stock. Then if the banker later decides to approve a multi-million-dollar loan to the company, the stock prices rise and they are sold for a profit. Today, the actual buys and sells of the corporation's stock are not necessary, for the Federal Reserve Board need only announce to the newspapers an increase or decrease in their discount rate. And that sends the stocks soaring or crashing. The bankers and their agents have purchased secret or open control of many large corporations throughout America. They then force the corporation to borrow huge loans from their bank so that corporate earnings are siphoned off in the form of interest payments to the banks. Thus, the banks can make a profit even when the stock prices are depressed. Under this system, where new debt always exceeds new money, no matter how much or how little is borrowed, the total debt increasingly outstrips the money supply, the amount of money available to pay the debt. The people can never get out of debt. Let's talk about the tyranny of compound interest. When a person goes to a banker to borrow $100,000 to purchase a home or property, the bank clerk has the person agree to pay back the loan plus interest. If the interest rate is 8.25% for 30 years, I know it's high, but it's an unsecured loan and it'll serve as an illustration. The borrower must agree to pay $751.27 per month for a total of $270,456. The bank clerk then requires the person to assign to the banker the right of ownership of the property if the borrower does not pay back the money. The bank clerk gives the borrower a check for $100,000 or a deposit slip crediting the borrower's account with the money. The borrower then writes checks to the builders, the workers, the escrow company, which then writes checks to pay company bills. So $100,000 of new checkbook money is added to the money in circulation. However, the flaw now shows up. The money to pay back the loan is not created. And so the borrower has to take out of circulation $270,456 or $170,456 more than what he borrowed. Every new loan puts the same process in operation. Each borrower adds a small sum to the total money supply when he borrows. But the payment on the loan then deducts a much larger sum from the total money supply. And since this has happened millions of times during the past few years, you can see why the United States has gone from a very prosperous nation to a very debt-ridden nation, where practically every home, every farm, every industry is paying interest to the bankers. There's therefore no way that all debtors can pay off the lenders. I'd like to read to you a passage from Proverbs chapter 1, beginning with verse 10 through verse 19. This talks about communism, which is the title we give what I talked about, the redistribution of wealth. It says here, "My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance."
We'll be right back after this message. Okay, I have some good news. We're going to extend the archaeology gift offer for one more week. Here's what you get. It's actually 4 discs. You're going to get the 1991 video that I shot when Leslie and I visited Noah's Ark, the crossing side of the Red Sea, all kinds of amazing things on that 2-week tour with Ron Wyatt. That's called Archaeology Confirms the Bible. Then I made one back in 2012 called Noah's Ark Confirms the Bible, and this is explaining a lot of the things that was actually on the first DVD. Then we had Michael Root in to make 2 amazing DVDs. First one called End Times Archaeology, second one called Dead Sea Scrolls. 4 discs, 4 titles, and is normally valued at $80, but we're making it available right now for a gift of just $40. We're going to extend it one more week. It's called the Archaeology Gift Offer at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Archaeology Gift Offer, prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Last week, get it now. Brian Melvin did an excellent job making this DVD called Hell in a Box and From Hell to Heaven. Excellent talk. I've heard about 30 some odd talks of people that have passed on, some to heaven, some to hell. This is one of the best ones. This held my attention all the way through. Now look, just as archaeology can be really powerful to win people to Christ, and you need that. You need this DVD in your hands to show people this will convince people. I'm saying this will convince the skeptic to get saved very powerfully. You want this DVD and this book, Hell in a Box and Hell to Heaven, and the book, A Land Unknown, Hell's Dominion. DVD gift of 30, book gift of 20, both for a gift of 45, prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. The Hell Gift Offer. Keep them out of it with the Hell Gift Offer. prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. And now, back to the program.
We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay in wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. so are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. My friends, this is communism, and the Bible refutes it. That means it's been around for thousands of years. So what we have here with the Federal Reserve Corporation is nothing new. Redistribution of wealth, one purse, while people are losing their own blood for the greedy gain of the communists who so infiltrate our economic system, our banking and our monetary system. In the millions of transactions made each year, just like what I've discussed with the borrowing, the usury, the communism, very little actual currency will change hands. About 95% of all cash transactions are done in the form of check. Realize that banks must hold on-site in cash only 10% of all their deposits at any given time. And that means 90% of all deposits, though they actually are held by the bank, are not present in the form of actual currency. Consequently, the banker is relatively safe to create that so-called loan by writing the check or deposit slip, not against actual money, but against your promise to pay it back. The cost to the banker is paper and ink and a few dollars of overhead for each transaction made. Let's talk about national economics. The same principles apply to national economies as well as to individual economies. For example, when a nation gets into trouble, along comes the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to loan more money so that the nation in question can make the repayments, the interest on the repayments. The different national economies are like the ships in the sea. They're all sinking. But some ships are kinder than others, and they try to help out some of the other ships bail out their water as they run into icebergs and face tidal waves that the national bankers, the world bankers, send their ways, but they're all sinking. And this prolongs the inevitable while one tries to help the other. We have to get out from under the world bankers' control. Let's talk about truth and correction. You see, there is a correct method for providing currency for each citizen. No private banks would exist to rob the people if we followed the original constitutional system. Government banks, under the control of the people's representatives, not Satan's representatives, but the people's representatives, would issue and control all money and credit. They would issue actual currency as well as limited credit at no interest for the purchase of capital goods such as homes. This means that a $100,000 home or loan for a home would only require a $100,000 repayment. All workers on the home would get paid just as they do now. But the greedy, communistic world bankers in the Federal Reserve Corporation would not take in a mere extra $170,456. Under the present system, the extra burden of interest forces workers and businesses to demand more money for all the work and goods to pay their own ever-increasing debts and taxes. This increase in prices and wages is inflation. Bankers, politicians, and economists blame it on everything except for the real cause, the interest levied on money and debt by bankers. Emory, page 8. Inflation benefits the moneylenders since it wipes out the savings of one generation who would like to finance their next generation. But the next generation has to borrow all over again now from the greedy world bankers, the Federal Reserve banks. And it's systematically designed to do this, to break the American middle class. I mentioned before about Mexico's history. I shared with you how in the early 1900s, Mexico was the wealthiest nation on the planet. But these same greedy communistic world bankers busted Mexico's wonderful middle class. They had a thriving, beautiful middle class. But look at Mexico now. When you think of Mexico, you think of dirt, the poverty, the joblessness, the crime, all the diseases and sicknesses they have, and they don't have the money they need for medical attention. and you find a tremendous persecution on the born-again Christians, even by people who call themselves religious. But it's a worldly religion that pervades Mexico. It's called humanism. And some American politicians even wrote the Humanistic Manifesto. If you want to see the future of America, look at Mexico. And yet they're trying to import that poverty to us over here. I served with the Minutemen Project in April. I was down there. I was en route from Texas, where I was on television being interviewed, and on the way back to San Diego, I went down there, and I offered a field worship service. I kept patrol from 10 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And what the Minutemen Project did, what we did was to report the illegal immigrants as they came over. And to show you the kind spirit that America has, Christian America, we even offered to feed the aliens that we caught. Well, we didn't really catch them, we reported them, but we offered food. But the liberal, disgusting, atheistic, communistic ACLU was ready to accuse the Minutemen of poisoning aliens, so we could not even feed them. That's how much the liberals just love those aliens. Don't even want them to be fed. Such hypocrisy. And we need to prevent in America what has happened, the atrocities that happened in Mexico due to the godless, evil world bankers. Remember, the Federal Reserve Corporation, this is not an American institution. These are composed of world bankers who rule the world and will increasingly take away our freedoms, such as with the national ID card that has been passed, and now by 2008, we've got to have a national ID card. Thank you to the Federal Reserve Corporation. We'll talk more about that. The elimination of the interest payments and debt would be the equivalent of a 50% raise for the American hardworking wage earner. A 50% increase in salary. A 50% increase in purchasing power. The equivalent of $400 billion annually that would go back into our pockets so that we could spend more money, fund more missionaries to go around the world, and let business thrive because we'll spend more money and we will keep our industries going. Just think if we could revive the steel industry, which has been busted by the Federal Reserve Corporation. Our jobs are being exported. I mentioned the $133 billion in job losses alone. That does not include outsourcing. But the $103 billion in job losses to the illegal aliens coming over here. You know, some people say that Mexico has to improve in their economy to stop illegal immigration so that they will want to stay in Mexico. Yeah, right. So we should just let them keep coming here until they improve? No, the same world bankers busted them. They're not going to let them improve. This is hypocrisy. These are lies. Remember, politicians lie. They will not tell you the truth. Anything to take money out of your little pockets. Let's talk about court decisions. You know, there are a few courts that are pro-American that are still left. Not very many, because most of our courts are run by activist federal judges, not constructionist judges that believe in simply interpreting the Constitution. But those who think they are lawmakers, that's not their job. But the court decisions, the Daily Eagle reported that the power of banks is stupendous, both in granting loans and arbitrarily recalling loans. Court decisions may be the beginning of the end of some of their powers. And for example, note the following decisions. A Minnesota trial court decided to hold the Federal Reserve Act unconstitutional and void. And they decided that the National Banking Act they declared that unconstitutional and void. And also a mortgage acquired by the First National Bank of Montgomery, Minnesota, along with a foreclosure and a sheriff's sale were declared void. These decisions have the effect of declaring all private mortgages on real and personal property and all U.S. and state bonds held by the Federal Reserve, national and state banks to be null and void. Upon such decisions hang the balance of enslavement and freedom for the American people, to slavery to the world's banking system. Decisions such as these are only a beginning, and most people hoped for greater results. They hoped for much more, but unfortunately time has gone by, And these decisions did not accomplish the breakthrough that many had hoped for. The system of international banking and the elite still rules. Let's talk about the effects of globalization. Business Week, December 6th, 2004, did a special report on the effects of globalization on trades, businesses, gross national product, and labor in general. The report stated, trade economists are struggling to reconcile traditional theories with emerging global realities. What a struggle. In the section of the report titled End of the Big Bank Bonanza, we hear that banks are facing hurdles in their quest to boost earnings because the hot credit card and mortgage refi business are cooling as interest rates rise and regulatory costs are rising because of new laws. The more major media sources discuss globalization, the more easily Americans will come to accept it as inevitable. As the American people get further into debt, the more necessary the global bank will seem. So the bankers are facing hurdles. I told you that the Federal Reserve banks, they're in this for their own financial gain because it's business. They're not in it for the good of the people. Don't you feel sorry for the bankers? I see some of you weeping. I see handkerchiefs coming out of your pockets because you feel so badly for these Federal Reserve communists. Let's talk about the steps toward a global bank. The steps toward a global bank are simple. Note the progression of acceptance. The World Bank, the wonderful, sympathetic World Bank that hopes for a kinder and gentler world.
I'm going to interrupt right there, but I'm going to encourage you to get these 4 DVDs valued at $120 for a gift of just $40. I'm going to give you one line per DVD explaining it. How illegal immigration is destroying America. He exposes how satanic forces in the U.S. government are actually allowing illegal immigration, giving access to terrorists to invade America, and a lot more. How world bankers are destroying America by forming a global bank to control all kinds of things. Of course, we know eventually go to the mark of the beast, talking a lot about the Federal Reserve. Then Secrets of the Illuminati, Dr. Stan Monteith, radio program he did for 5 hours every day for years, 37 years. He talks about things like Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderbergers, and a lot more. Planned population reduction. What's wrong with things like DDT, created diseases, milk additives, processes, MTBE, Splenda, and that's just scratching the surface. 4 DVDs valued at $120 for a gift of $40 at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. It's the immigration gift offer. This week, 785-266-1112 or prophecyclub.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for your gifts of support. That's what really keeps us going. Now from the Prophecy Club, some exciting opportunities for you. Okay, I have some good news. We're going to extend the archaeology gift offer for one more week. Here's what you get. It's actually 4 discs. You're going to get the 1991 video that I shot when Leslie and I visited Noah's Ark, the crossing side of the Red Sea, all kinds of amazing things on that 2-week tour with Ron Wyatt. That's called Archaeology Confirms the Bible. Then I made one back in 2012 called Noah's Ark Confirms the Bible, and this is explaining a lot of the things that was actually on the first DVD. Then we had Michael Root in to make 2 amazing DVDs. First one called End Times Archaeology. Second one called Dead Sea Scrolls. 4 discs, 4 titles, and is normally valued at $80, but we're making it available right now for a gift of just $40. We're going to extend it one more week. It's called the Archaeology Gift Offer at prophecyclub.com or 785-266-1112. Archaeology Gift Offer, prophecyclub.com, 785-266-1112. Last week, get it now.